Hey guys, sorry about the delay. Geez, technology these days, you know. Apologize for that. We had a driver update we had to get done, and it didn't tell us to the very last minute, and then it took forever. But anyways, glad you're here. Glad you're here on the Saturday Night Live. It is Adam and the Aeroworks Productions workshop, if you will. We got the Super Duty build behind us. Go ahead and drop a comment down below if you're in here, and if you're building the Super Duty, you're just looking at the builds. I'd like to see who is in here still, if there are people still here from our short delay here today. So hope everybody is doing well. Happy New Year, late Happy New Year, now that we're almost through one whole month of January in 2024. But year is off to a start, and we're ready to get back into the Super Duty build hangar here. We've been super busy with a remodel project for about the last 6 to 8 months. My sons and I were building, basically building out an entire basement, all the plumbing, electrical, ceilings, walls, the whole shebang. So that pretty much pulled us away from this project. But we are wrapping that project up, just some small details and trim and things like that, getting that all wrapped up, and now we're kind of getting back to the shop. Doesn't mean we haven't been back out here, we just haven't been recording a lot of videos because, of course, any of you guys that are building, you know how hard it is to get away to build, let alone build and film and produce a video about every build that you do. So looks like we got about 12 people watching right now. Looks like Bob's here. Hey Bob, how's it going? Chris, I don't know if you're still here, but good evening. Thanks for joining us. Got a lot of new builders, Super Duty builders in the community. I've been seeing a lot of kits, a lot of questions being asked. Hey Greg, been seeing a lot of just excitement and movement and action in the Super Duty forum. And I want to say thanks guys for everybody who has joined over on the Facebook page. I started that group when I was first buying and building and thinking about buying and building this plane. I noticed that there was a Zenith Builders group, and then there was, you know, a Flyers group, and the Builders group was really good, but a lot of people would just ask these open-ended questions like, what's this bracket for? And they wouldn't tell you what plane they were building. And we do know that if you are building a Super Duty, there are differences, mainly from the front forward, and landing gear is different, and the tail's a little different. So there's definitely some differences. And I thought that since there wasn't a Super Duty page, why not create a page for Super Duty builders? And I've worked really hard to try and keep it to either current builders, potential builders, and so that we can get the information to everybody to be accurate and really help each other out. You know, we're at about 975 members now. We'd be well over 1,000 if I wasn't weaning out all of the crap that you get from all the different countries and the t-shirt sales and all that stuff. So good job, guys. Thanks for joining. And if you know anybody that is building a Super Duty, encourage them to join us on the Facebook page and share pictures and stuff, because as we all know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and a lot of times with the Super Duty, especially if you're building early on in the beginning, that there wasn't a lot of information. There was, you know, you have your plans, which that's really your best instruction guide, is the actual plan set that comes with the Super Duty. Then there's the IPL, which we know has been somewhat complete and not complete, depending on what section you're working on. And then there's the Google Doc, or the Google page, which allows you to log in, and there's categories of, you know, different parts of the aircraft, and you dive into these folders, and then you see some used pictures and pictures at air shows and pictures of planes that aren't 750 Super Duty. So I thought, hey, let's get one place where we can put all the information. And if you're not familiar with that page, at the very top of the Facebook page on the right side, there'll be a tab that says Media. And I encourage you to go there, and you can actually look, and I created subfolders that are the main component parts of the aircraft. So like landing gear, wings, fuselage, engine. And I'm trying to put really detailed photos in there. So maybe guys, those photos may help you there. Looks like we got, yeah, Greg says Facebook page has been a lifesaver. I know, Greg, you've asked a lot of questions in there, and that's what it's for. Because as we all know, as great as Zenith's support is, Roger can't be everywhere at all 24 hours a day, and a lot of times we are. So helping each other out with a simple question or a plans question, maybe something doesn't seem right, or you get a part that's not marked correctly, we probably have seen that as well. So that's a great resource for that. So what do we got going on here? So we have in the Super Duty hangar here, we've got obviously our 750 Super Duty, which doesn't look like there's a lot been done from probably the last couple times that we did videos, but we actually have done some work. Our next major video that will be coming out will most likely be doing the cowling on the front. This is, of course, we have the Zenith, the Viking 195 turbo in there. We can show you that here in a second, but we'll be doing the top and bottom cowling. I also did change out the intercooler scoop on the side. So I haven't changed it yet, but I have it. So instead of the main inlet in the front of the cowling coming in through like a neoprene tube, we're going to leave that closed off, and we'll have a side scoop on the side of the lower cowling on the Super Duty. Over here to the left, you can kind of see it out of the left screen there. We got our wing stand. That is the right wing that is pretty much 92% complete. Fuel tanks are in, fuel lines are ran, wiring is run, skins are riveted on. The only thing that's not done on there is the wing tips and the trailing edge because we want to leave that off for fitting and some final fuel line connections and things like that. We can take a jump over here over to the left wing. And you can jump over here with me. And basically what we've got here is the complete left wing. It is in the skinning phase. So as you know, if you built the wing first, or if you are building your wing, there's a lot of drilling. There is a lot of hole deburring and such. So this wing, the bottom skins are riveted on. The top skins are basically, we're doing the match hole drilling, which, as you know, everything's not match hole drilled. It is pretty close, but most of these holes need to be cleaned up a little bit. Otherwise, you're fighting with that rivet gun a lot. So we've got most of the A5 stuff drilled out. We've got our A4 stuff, the stiffeners on the top of the skin. Obviously, they go on the inside. And then the nose skins are just being fitted up and drilled. Now, the main thing we've got to do here is we've got to drill out that main spar, which of course is not drilled for you from the factory. So as we go along, we have to drill these out and, you know, step them up using the copper clecos and the black clecos, and then of course take all this back off, deburr everything. If you're going to prime it or corrosion resist coat it, you can do all that. This wing probably gets the most stuff in it because you've got the pitot tube, you've got the same navigation and lights, and then you've also got, in my case, you got the landing light is going to be on this side in the what do you call it? The slats. I'm sorry, I was losing my train of thought there. In the front slat, so you've got the wire that's going to be going to that. So we kind of use the left wing for kind of a a guinea pig to kind of get the bugs worked out. Work on the wing that didn't have as much stuff in it. Get all the things worked out in that one, and then move along to the next one. So that's where we're at with this one. Once we get kind of back in the groove, this is probably, I would say a full weekend of work here. Probably, a couple full days of drilling everything out, taking all the skins back off, deburring, sanding, scuffing, cleaning everything up, and then we'll focus on basically the plumbing stuff. So the fuel tank, the vent line, the wingtip strobe and nav light, and then also the wiring for the pitot heat and pitot. You got the pitot static system, so you've got those lines that have to go in. So this one gets a few more things inside of it. I would say probably a couple more days of drilling and deburring, and then we'll disassemble all of that, set it aside, and really go to work on getting all the plumbing work done, getting everything lined out, laid out, zip tied up, secured, all the wiring in place, grommets in place, and of course that will all be covered in a video. And then we will get it all put back together, and then we'll eventually be back to all the major components of the aircraft being complete, and the 2 wings sitting in the wing stand, and then what's left is basically building our slats and flaps and then tying it all together. So we're getting really close. Interior wise, we have our sub panel in. We have some of the basic wiring in. I still have to do my wiring for lights, or excuse me, not for lights, but for radios, you know, GPS, all that kind of stuff. There's still a lot to do with wiring. And that's why I've taken a little time to kind of really take a step back and, you know, go through all of that, because as you know, everybody does something different. The factory really doesn't tell you how to wire anything or what engine to use or what avionics to use. They have recommendations, but they kind of leave that up to you, and that's part of experimental aircraft building. So where do we get our ideas from? We get them from each other. We get them from people on YouTube. We get them from magazines. And so we've kind of went through a couple of iterations of panel design and components and switches and where things were going to be placed. And it's kind of nice to take a step back and wait a little while and not just rush and mount everything up, because then you're like, well, this is kind of what it is, and I'm just going to leave it that way. So, hey, Gordon. Nice. Thanks for joining, Gordon. New name there, so appreciate it. But yeah, we're excited because, you know, this thing came in a box, and now we have an airplane on wheels with an engine in it. This engine has been run. If you didn't see that video, go back and watch the Viking engine install. Why don't you guys drop a comment in the live chat there? What do you guys, are you building a Super Duty? And if you are, what engine did you go with? And how has your experience been so far? So for anybody who has followed this channel for a little bit, you know, and again, it's been almost 3 years, and it's crazy how time goes by. And we're going to talk a bit about motivation and hurdles in the build, which you all will run into, especially you new guys that are gung-ho right now about knocking a bunch of stuff out in a month or two. You know, things get in the way as you go through a build. You know, everybody has different different part times in their life and different experiences. And when we get these kits, man, we are gung-ho. We're ready to take everything out of the box and get everything sorted out and get our parts. We got our tools ready, our shops ready. And, you know, you start putting the fuselage together, and it's amazing how quickly it goes together. You know, the sides are going up quick, and all of a sudden you got a box sitting in your garage, and it looks like a plane, and that motivates you some more. But then you eventually get to a part where it's just like, you know, everything you do takes several hours to complete, right? So there were many times in the last 6 months that I was like, I'm going to go out and work on the plane, but I knew that I wasn't going to get very much done. And for me, I didn't want to be in the middle of a critical aircraft component and forget where I left off or where I started. So I kind of like set these time limits to myself, to where I like, if I can't go out for 3 or 4 hours to complete something, I'm probably just going to not hold off on it. And that's just me. That's me personally. I don't know what you guys are doing with that. But again, if you do get into those kind of those hurdles, those times when you feel like you're slowing down or maybe you're lose some motivation, it's great to see other builders completing their aircraft, because you kind of like, hey, man, I got the same plane. I just got to get out there and finish it. And then, you know, we can meet up at these fly-ins. We can go fly places together. So, you know, that's one of the things that's kind of fun in this community, is seeing other people, where they're at, the ideas that people have. People are making little changes to things. You know, I know there's a few people building cruisers but putting bigger gear on them. There's people building Super Duties, but, you know, just everybody's got a kind of a different thing going on there. Kentberg, yeah, hey Kent, 195 support's always great. Good to hear from you, Kent. Bob Dennis says, I'm thinking about the Viking new engine Super Duty, non-turbo maybe. Yeah, I know that just came out. I'm not real familiar with that one, but again, if it's from Viking, their support and everything is been great. So let's see. Light work. Okay. Somebody, the Rock's talking about bucking rivets and that. Yeah. So you know, it is what it is. You know, these aircraft have been around for over 30, 30 plus years, and we see the beatings that they take. You know, a lot of people don't like cherry rivets, the pop rivets, you know, whatever you want to call them. I originally was going to build a Vans RV8, and we all know what happened to Vans recently. I'm glad to see that they're getting that all worked out. But one of the reasons for me to build this aircraft was I knew that with an RV8 with flush and or mostly all bucked rivets, it was going to be hard enough for me to get out to the shop and the hangar and work on it myself, let alone having a second person laying inside the fuselage or on the other side of the wing bucking rivets. And that's a major factor in a time commitment if you are considering what aircraft kit to build. And so for me, knowing that I had never built a plane before, I'd been around a lot of planes, I knew the terminology and the technology, but I thought, you know what, this kind of fits the bill with size and capabilities and ease of build, you know, the build components. It wasn't super difficult. Most of the hard parts, the welded stuff was done for you, the gear's done for you. So for me, that was the main reason for choosing the Super Duty. Looks like Greg's heading off to the Viking Engine Workshop this Friday. Yeah, those are really good. I've never actually been to one. I've watched all the videos because I know they usually videotape those, but Jan and Alyssa do a really good job. You know, people can say what they want about Viking and, you know, the history of Viking, but I've had nothing but good and great experiences from them. And I can tell you, as somebody who works in a customer service oriented field in my business, knowing that customer service to me is everything. I don't care if it's a restaurant, a parts manufacturer, Amazon, whatever. If you have a bad experience, or somebody makes a mistake, and that happens, we all make mistakes, but they don't correct it, that's not somebody I'm going to do business with, right? But that's not the case with Viking. Viking, from reaching out to me when they knew I had an issue getting a Lycoming engine, to every bit of support and help in the purchase process, from the delivery to tech support to support throughout the installation. It's second to none. I never had a company that has been as customer support oriented as Viking have. So thanks to Jan and Alyssa for the support that they have provided with that. So I would not hesitate recommending them to anybody, no matter what Zenith you're building, or any other plane for that matter, because now they're putting them in Rans and Vans and everything. So don't hesitate to go with them. Is there anything somebody wants to see specifically? Do you have questions about the Super Duty in specific? And again, guys, those of you joining a little bit later, sorry for the delay. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty there. We normally start these on time. We'll make sure that all the computer stuff is up to snuff before then as well. Greg says we'll buy my 195 then. Yeah, it's a good engine. It's a good setup for this plane. It works great. I mounted this engine. You can watch that video. I did it all myself. I didn't even have a helper in here. I had an engine stand. I had the bolts. I'd watched the installation video several times, and I did it in less than an hour. I put the engine in, or I should say mounted it to the firewall. I didn't install the complete engine, but mounted the engine to the firewall, and then took several other videos that will show you the cooling system and other components of that. So just looking to see if there's any other specific questions here. Bob says he's plumbing the pitot tube. Where is everyone installing their static port? Yeah, I was planning on putting mine back here, probably just aft of the baggage wall. So the baggage wall runs right here on this line of rivets. So probably somewhere back here, I'm thinking. That way the plumbing for all of the, in my case, the Dynon pitot-static system will be back there, kind of accessible in the hellhole. I don't know if there's necessarily a right or wrong with that. I know you don't want it up front, but or by the engine or anything like that. But yeah, I would go with whatever your manufacturer says for putting that in. Let's see, what else do we got here? What are you guys using for avionics? We decided to go Dynon on ours. We've got the HDX panel, and we are using an iPad for backup, mainly because I wanted two completely independent GPS systems, AHRS systems, and I figured this plane doesn't need a complete glass cockpit, but I could give it a glass cockpit if I used the iPad mount. So I use the Guardian Systems iPad mount. Now, one thing to keep in mind as we do these builds is that with technology changing, and we know how fast iPhones and iPads and things go in and out of date, I originally had an iPad Pro, and it was like a unique size. It was like a 10.1 inch. So they used to have like 9, 6, and then they jumped to 11 or 12. So, you know, make sure that if you are going to buy something that's iPad or iPhone related, whether it be the level system or that you plan ahead, because if you buy it today, but you don't finish your plane for 3 years or 2 years, your iPad might die by that time, or that iPad model might not be available, or maybe you bought a cradle for a phone that you don't have anymore. So kind of think about that if you are planning to go with a mobile device as a screen, whether it be an iPhone or an iPad, plan ahead. You know, think about where you're going to be, when do you really need that panel done, because you might be cutting a hole that isn't going to work for you when you finally get the device that you want. All right, well, I'm just looking here through some, if there's any other questions in here. I'm not getting too many people commenting on, except for Bob and Greg. Did everybody get their kit in one package? Are you guys building kind of the sub kits or the modular, or did you get the whole shebang in one box? That's what I did originally. So I had the big crate in here. I had all the wing parts. I had all the fuselage parts. The only thing I didn't have was the finishing kit, which I then ordered later, but I ordered it for a Lycoming, and then that came. That didn't work out because I couldn't get a Lycoming engine for like 2 years, and they were astronomically priced by the time that came around. Again, there's a whole video on our channel about that. Is it? Oh, okay, that's fine. Hey guys, I apologize if there's ads running. We'll have to look at that. Somebody mentioned there was ads running. That might be a YouTube thing that pops up automatically. It might be a setting I can change too. Oh, you can? All right, I'm just talking to Major off screen here. He's my live streaming guy. Let's see. What else do we got going here? Does anybody have any Super Duty questions specific to anything that they've got going on? Looks like we still have about 17 people watching in here. And maybe 5 of those people have commented on something. So that's good. Do you guys like the live videos? And again, there's not a ton of action in this video because we're trying to get back in the swing of things, kind of see where everybody's at, talk to you guys. Do you like live videos better? Do you want to talk where you have more interaction, or would you just like the short and long form instructional videos? I'm going to say it's maybe both, or it's more probably the long videos. Am I doing the baggage compartment? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Dennis. I've got the third seat. I'm not doing any doors in the baggage back. I do have the access door on the opposite side, which is for my fuel system, because when I bought my 195, they were using the cylindrical header tanks. Now they use a flat one that goes down in the hellhole. But when you do the side one, oh yeah, under the belly, yeah. I'm doing the baggage bay on the bottom. Yes, I am, and I can actually show you that. Let me see where I have that. One standby. You can stay on this camera here, Major. Over here to the parts section. So again, this is something that you can buy from Viking Aircraft. Whether you're buying or building using their engine or not, you can get their belly package. So this is actually one of the side panels right here. It's actually connected together and riveted in the middle. It's got some angle on there for handles. And even this is actually the right side, so I have it inside out, but just to kind of give you an idea what that looks like, that will basically tie in down here like this. And one of the main reasons I liked it was not because I plan on putting my carry-on in here, because that won't fit, but for really two to three reasons. One was the style of radiator that we have on the front here, the Super Duty. They do have a new updated model of this too, which is the flat version. But with this style here, this kind of acts like a scoop and hides that a little bit. The second reason for me was I wanted a place to handle any external wiring or plumbing. A lot of people, you know, it's all zip tied around in the cockpit and it just looks unfinished to me. And I figured if you're building a brand new plane, which these will be when they get done, why have all this stuff in the cockpit zip tied around the bars and everything? So I'm using that for hiding things like the fuel line, some of the wiring from the center console. May go there, may not, I'm not sure, but it'll be up on the ceiling or the bottom of the aircraft. And so I'll get these sides mounted up. I'll leave the bottom off. I'll handle all the plumbing and electrical on the bottom of the aircraft, and then I'll fit the bottom skin, which basically is the belly of the aircraft. And that's where like the ADS-B antenna, things like that, transponder, things like that will be mounted to. So yes, to answer your question, I am doing that. Let's see, what else do we got here? Garmin 3X, that's a very sweet system. Got the whole kit at once, like Viking, under the belly, yep. Yeah, so really, really cool. I think it's gonna really, and there's a couple, I believe if you look in the, I did a post last week or maybe the week before about some finished aircraft, and there's actually some inspiration photos there, and there's a couple that have the belly pod, and it really, I think specifically with the radio that we have, it really streamlines that up quite a bit. So I'll go ahead and put this back real quick. So I'd like to say, you know, when we started this, we started in, I think it was maybe August of 21, I think it was. Time's gone by so fast, and we knocked out most of the aircraft in like the first 6 months. Like most of the fuselage was done. Then we worked on the tail, the horizontal. The rudder was done a year before that when we bought that separately as a starter kit. And then we started working on the wings. The wings kind of set aside for a while, and then we got back to the wings. So, you know, what I'd like to say, could you finish this in a year from start to finish? Absolutely, if you had the time. And I think that's one of those loaded questions that people are like, well, how long does it take to build? Well, how many hours a day are you going to work on it? That's really the question. I think a lot of people want to know, like, is it 1,000 hours? Is it 500 hours? It's really, it can be all over the board. I mean, some people take 10 years to build a plane. You know, hopefully we don't take that long. My goal really was to make the Zenith Homecoming this year. I don't, you know, Oshkosh is definitely not, I don't even know if I'd want to fly into Oshkosh anymore with as crazy as pilots are nowadays. But I don't think it would be ready by Oshkosh. I think if we could put in a solid effort over the next, you know, 6 to 8 months, I think we'd be really close to having wings fit up, you know, avionics installed. Obviously the engine's already run, but, you know, ran again, prop adjusted. There's definitely a lot to get done. I mean, there's always, it always seems like something is a complete day project just to accomplish one small task. So, but I think our next project, like I said in the beginning of the video, is going to be the cowling. So while Viking does have a video on their channel about installing the cowling, actually they have it in several videos. They actually haven't done one on a Super Duty. So we'll probably cover that. And we'll also cover the alteration of the intercooler ductwork. So we're going to change that a little bit. What part of the build was the most difficult so far? Good question. I would say one of the more challenging parts is the landing gear. Not that it's super difficult, but because you have to drill all the holes in this thick aluminum, and there's no guides, there's no starter holes, there's no nothing. So you really have to take your time and lay this big chunky gear out and mark it correctly and drill those big thick aluminum legs out. Everything else, while it's somewhat difficult, as a whole, the individual tasks are not that difficult. Like I said, if you lay out your parts correctly, for instance, if you're building the wing, we can go back over to the wing table here. If you're going to build the wing and you've got all your ribs laid out and you've got all your ribs marked, I did mix up a rib in the beginning on building the first wing. It was one of the fuel tank ribs. I got them reversed, and so I actually used one from the left wing on the right wing, and long story, talked about it with Roger. I was able to just fix it, and the only thing that happened is I had to hand drill or back drill the flapper-on bracket holes in one rib. So not a major deal, but I did have to do that. But as far as the wings go, they're fairly easy to lay out the ribs. That's pretty easy. There are some tricky holes to get to. The skins are kind of fun because that's when you see the wings coming together. And there are times, though, when holes don't always line up correctly. So you have to make sure and, get all your clecos in. Let the wing skin and the structure kind of work its way out and kind of iron itself out and get everything straight. Make sure you have a nice level table. I'm using, a lot of people will take the crate and they'll try to make a table out of it. I actually bought, they're actually called speed horses. They're all metal. They're made by Bora, B-O-R-A, and I can put a link in the description of the website after the video. But I have 3 of these sawhorses, and then I took 2 16-foot 2x4s and some plywood, and I've been working off this table. I built the fuselage on here, or at least part of it. I built both wings on this table. But the nice thing is I can pick the top of the table out of the grooves on the sawhorses, stand it on in, stick it against the wall, and I just gained all this space back, and I don't have a gigantic crate with casters and stuff that I have to deal with putting somewhere. Unless you need that for something else in your shop, that's great. But for me, even though I have a larger shop, I didn't want to tie up a big chunk of real estate in the shop with a permanent table. I've already got benches around. So I used the Bora speed horses, 3 of them, 2 16-foot 2x4s, some nice plywood, level it all up, and then that's what I've been building the wing off of for the last year or two. Bob says, yeah, the skins, the root area of the wings were tough. Yeah, that's definitely an area where those do take some fitting. And I think most people, if I'm not mistaken, get their wings mounted up and then kind of hand fit them to their fuselage. You would think that everything should be the same on all these planes, but there are slight differences. Specifically, if you've seen my videos, you know that the steel cage up here, we originally received one that was slightly bent. One of the bars was bent. It wasn't really not usable, but I called and I talked to Zenith, talked to Roger. He says, listen, we'll replace it. If you want to replace it, we'll replace it. So I ended up swapping that out. But then the new one came and I had to drill new holes and things. So, it can change slightly. So there are slight changes that can happen depending on what parts you are putting in and how you mount them up, because not everything has a hole. You have to make some of those holes yourself and make it the way you want. I will say something. There was a comment, maybe it was in the Facebook forums, about powder coating. That was one of the things I did. When I got my kit, I was like, bam, I'm going to get going with this thing. I want to get all those steel parts out right away, ship them out, get them powder coated so I can get them back right away because I'm going to finish this thing in 3 weeks, or whatever. Well, be real cautious about what and where you powder coat, because especially with the control sticks, the flapper-on arms, anything that's in the in the cockpit section, mainly because when they're using those phonetic green bushings that are in there, they are already tight, and they're tight on a steel tube with bare metal. So while some grease will help, if you add another couple mils of powder coating to that, they're even tighter, and now you got this control stick that won't move, or won't move, you know, pitch in that. So we've had to take those bushings out for the control rod in the cockpit there several times, sand those down, put them all back in, test fit it again, do it again. So just be cautious, or tape off those areas and leave them bare, because it is a bear to get those items in all of the green bushing style things. Same thing goes for the nose gear. If you powder coat the whole thing and don't leave the section where the donuts go bare, you're going to have a hard time getting those donuts on there. So yeah, just one note about powder coating when it comes to using powder coat. So yeah, we fitted our root skins to the wings off. Yep, then took them back off for access. Yeah, so again, we're talking about, we can go back over to the wing here. This section right in here. So the wings mount, here's the front spar. There's a hole right there. This is where the bolt will go through, right here. And the back spar is right here. And you notice there's no hole here yet. So when you go to fit these wings up, you're going to get the wings up on a sawhorse or a ladder or jack stand or whatever, and you're going to get that 3 degrees, if I remember right, of pitch or dihedral in the wings. You got to get the incidence correct, and then once you get all that correct, then you're going to clamp and you're going to mark this back hole and drill it. So even just a teeny bit of change in that can affect how this part right here, this last skin that goes on from here, which actually uses the same holes as this last rib here, up and around, and it goes here and it goes around and under the bottom. So any bit of adjustment there is going to need some trimming, you know, depending on how you do it. So that's probably one of the tougher skins to do on the wings itself. We're hoping to get to that part soon. I mean, this, like I said, this wing is for the most part skinned. We've got to finish drilling out the spar. You can see all the copper clecos here. Those need to turn black before we can feel done with this side. Then we'll get this wing all plumbed up, and then we'll have 2 wings sitting in the cradle. My shop is just big enough to probably, if I took the rudder off and back the aircraft into the corner, I've got enough space, wingspan, wingtip to wingtip, to do an angled park job in here to where I could actually rig up the wings in the hangar. So that's my plan, is to get everything rigged up, everything working, and then I'm going to actually paint it here as well. I actually bought a blow-up booth, so I've got it's like a big jumpy house. So it's large enough to roll the fuselage in by itself. It's large enough to roll the wings in by themselves. So I'm going to do all my paint here in this shop here, and then we will take it out to the airport and reassemble it. So that's kind of a long-term goal there. Oh yeah, Kent says the doors, yeah, the front glass and all the glass and wiring takes a lot of time. That's definitely true. I've got my doors built. They are temporary clecoed right now on the outside because, of course, the glass goes in there. They're all built and all that part's done, but I have not attached the glass to them. And while it's not a difficult job, it is one of those very precise, tedious things that you got to do slowly. You don't want to crack the glass or the acrylic. Same thing with the front windshield. There's a lot of fitting that's going to go on there. Yeah, that's definitely for the question of what's the hardest part to build. I would say, yeah. So far for me, I haven't been to that part yet, but for anybody else, excuse me, the windshield and the windows, because you do have to cut plexiglass. You're drilling and cutting and sanding, and one wrong drill and the whole thing's cracked and you're starting over. We also have the skylight too, which has to be trimmed down and glued in from the inside out. The side windows are pretty straightforward. They do have to be trimmed a little bit smaller. The side glass has to be trimmed, and then the front glass, whether you're going to do just that rubber gasket on the bottom like with the factory demo, or you're going to build a fiberglass you know, shroud at the bottom, which I think looks a lot better, and to me it seems a lot more secure. It's the same way they do it on the Vans aircraft. We've seen some of the other guys building out there that are doing that. So yeah, that's all good questions there. Oh yeah, Bob says he cracked his front glass. 3-inch crack, stop drilled it. Yeah, that's one. You can stop drill it, but what are you guys using to drill your glass with? Are you using like an acrylic bit? I know some people use a Dremel tool and they just kind of bore the hole out. Anybody have any recommendations for those who have drilled your glass so far? Let me know what you think there. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Questions, ideas, any other thing there? We've been going for, I don't know, we've been going about 41 minutes. So, yeah, again, we're, okay, Bob says use acrylic bits. Yeah. So I'm going to, you know, I guess you go to the old Amazon aircraft store and you find some good acrylic bits, or somebody like Aircraft Spruce. Obviously, they're a good source for aircraft parts and pieces. And then just take your time. There is some good, that is one thing in that the Google Drive, or the Google, whatever you want to call it, the website that Zenith has. There's 2 or 3 really good where they actually did make a manual. One of them was building the doors. The second one was putting the windows in the doors. And then they have a pretty good one on the glass. So those three are all pretty good as far as you know, instruction manuals. Outside of that, you know, you have your manual, but as most of you Super Duty builders know, when you get to, you know, some sections towards the back, all of a sudden it switches to a cruiser. So make sure your specs and stuff, you're looking at the right page. And the Google Drive does have the plans updates. So, you know, depending on when your plans were printed and sent to you, mine were June of 2020, revision date. You go on the Google Doc, and then you can look at, you know, it'll say update 2024, January 5th, and then it'll say this page, we changed this part to this part, or we deleted this. So make sure you go to that Google Doc. And if you don't have access to that, or you didn't know about it, just email Roger. They'll give you a login to that. But basically, you just go on Google, and it's a Google Drive. You can save it to your drive. But there are good manuals for the glass portion on there, and there are good updates for the drawings, which some of them do require some drawings on. So we got 20 people on the stream right now. I see the same faces or names commenting there. Any new people on that just joined with us? Drop a comment down below. Let me know who's in and what you're building. If you're building a Super Duty, that's awesome. Let's see here. Just seeing if I missed any questions. Has anybody started, now is everybody familiar with the Mosaic FAA new rules that are coming out, or that came out? So basically, long story short, we all hear about the 40-hour fly-off, right? So you build your plane, you get the FAA to come out, sign it off, give you that experimental, you know, amateur-built aircraft airworthiness certificate. But then the stipulation is you have to take your plane out and fly it around in basically non-populated areas. You know, 40 hours. You can't take passengers other than required crew, which really this doesn't have required crew. But no other passengers. I don't think you can fly at night. You can't fly over cities. Blah blah blah. Well, the Mosaic, I think, is what it's called, which is an acronym for something. And don't ask me off the top of my head. But that basically says if you create your own pilot manual, your own training manual, your own information manual on the aircraft, that you can determine what it requires to check out the aircraft. So, oh yeah, somebody dropped, oh, we got the comment down, yeah, dropped in the Facebook page there. Good, perfect. So yeah, Mosaic should help a lot of things when it comes to aircraft testing. If you go back in the previous videos on our channel, There's one that has back to school, I think it says. And I cover a lot of stuff in that video about the FAA, from registering your IN number, which we have our IN number, to registering the aircraft, how to do the bill of sale, you know, what you need from Zenith to register your aircraft. There's a good packet you can buy from the EAA. It's like 12 bucks, 15 bucks, and it sends you all this documentation. You even get you get your experimental sticker. You get a bunch of information about making this aircraft legitimate in the real world. So that's a good lot of good resources there for that. So let's see, anybody else have questions? I'm trying to think if there was another topic that came up in a previous thing there. Are those ads still coming up back there? Okay. All right. Well, we'll stay on here for a little bit longer. Again, just drop any questions you have. The plan, usually my original plan, and what I said in my original videos, was I was going to come out and, you know, whatever I did in a week's time. If I come out on Monday and work for an hour, I come out on Tuesday, work for a couple hours, I take all that footage, and at the end of the week, I put a video together and put it out. Well, that worked for a little while, but, you know, as you know, it takes probably more time to edit these videos and put them together and get them out than it does to do the work that we're doing. So what I'm really trying to do now is pick like real specific tasks, right? We don't want to, you know, sit here and show you how to drill 5,000 holes out on the wings. But if there's those gotchas, if there's those tricky parts of building the skeleton, or building the cowling, or mounting the cowling, or maybe building the baggage compartment on the bottom, those things, those are the ones we're going to do specific videos on. As well as just keeping everybody up to date on the Super Duty build. And then there's some things we're not going to disclose, because we're gonna be kind of surprising you guys once you see us out in public at a air show or at Zenith or something like that. So we've got some cool touches in the cockpit. We're gonna probably not reveal until it's actually ready to fly. And then you know, we'll be covering some paint in that. Now, obviously, you can see in the video, we did kind of what Viking did with their original demonstrator model, and we used powder coat on some of the aircraft structures, specifically the tail. So our tail will all be orange, including that dorsal fin there. And then we powder coated the landing gear, and then I had these wheels, I sent them back to Matco and had them actually do it because it was something that they offered. So if you do want, a lot of people are going with black wheels too, since we did that, but you know, these wheels come in like a silver finish. I know the other 750s used to have a gold wheel, but these come silver. But Matco actually offers a black finish, but they like to do it because then they make sure that they're warranting the wheel and everything. So if you do get the standard silver ones, you can call up Matco, create an RA number, send the wheels back to them. They'll do it to their specs and send you back the wheels in the black finish. So if that's something you're looking to do, you know, definitely do that. All right, guys. Well, we're probably getting to the end here. It looks like we don't have any other new questions. Again, sorry about the delay in the beginning. I hate when you're excited for a live and then we didn't get it going right away, but that was just a technical issue on our end. We'll make sure and have that going for the next one. Like I said, our next video will probably be covering the cowling, and that will be more of a long-form video on the channel. If you guys are enjoying those videos or you're enjoying this video, make sure that you are you like the videos and you have the notifications on. That's the big thing. I don't care if you like the videos. If you don't like them, don't like them. But if you do like them and or you want to be notified when we put new videos out, there's that little bell. You want to make sure and check that. Yes, Bob, I am doing the stall fences on the end of the stabilizer. So yeah, those are something that also that Viking does sell. Some people do the vortex generators on the bottom of the horizontal. That is obviously something that works well as well. But we'll be doing the stall fences on the very end of the horizontal, which really adds a lot of effectiveness to that elevator in slow flight, because it kind of keeps that airflow from dumping off the ends of the horizontals. So we'll be showing those both getting installed and finished in a later video. Let's see, Scott says, I've seen a few people use vortex generators instead of slats. Do you intend to use the slats on your Super Duty? Yeah. Yeah, both. I'm definitely using the slats. If I wanted the faster plane, I probably would have done the cruiser with maybe a more rugged gear. That's definitely an option if you're looking for more of a speed cruiser. There's been some talk about them building something like that, or offering that as an option. I'm not going to do the VGs right out of the gate. That's something you can always add later. I'll probably just try as stock as possible. I've got the 5-bladed Duke propeller, so I'll be playing with that a little bit, kind of finding the sweet spot there, because I'm not going to be flying out of 100-foot gravel strips initially. I want a plane that can land off airport, but I'm not trying to get into hairy, in and out of scary positions. So I don't necessarily need the most, the craziest, all the vortex generators and all that stuff. So I'm going to go with the slats initially. If I did do those, I could see me doing them on the horizontal if those stall fences are not an obvious fix. Not necessarily a fix, but just an improvement to airflow over the tail. As far as outside of that, I'm just trying to think if there's any other major changes that we've done. There's 100 different ways to do everything on this plane, from brakes to, single throttle, dual throttle, side stick, center stick, header tank in the floor, on the side, Lycoming, Viking engine. So there's lots of options there. Let's see, do you think there's a downside to a quick build other than cost? No, I mean, the only downside would be not having the experience building it. I mean, if that's not really your thing and you just want to get in the air, by all means, and you got the money to buy the quick build kit where the fuselage is done. There are some areas, things I would have done different in the fuselage. I think I would have done a little bit more, I would have done a better job of plumbing any wiring without the top or the sides on before I closed it up, because once you close it up, you have the hell hole and maybe a little bit of room in the tail to get through to things, and you don't really have a way to get into here. So yeah, if I was doing it all over again, and it wasn't a big deal for me, I think for most people that do not quick builds, but do kit aircraft, you can go out and buy a plane, but part of owning an aircraft like this, well, that has kind of swayed a little bit. Let me go back on that. But I used to say part of the thing was, you could go out and buy a used Cessna for $30,000. Well, that time's gone, right? That's way out the window now. But the big thing, I think, is that most of the type of people that build aircraft are handy people, tech-savvy people, people that want to do their own construction, and I think that's really what I wanted to do originally. But if that doesn't bother you, and if you want to get a jump start, by all means, do a quick build kit. Are they still sending out the finished floor section? I don't know if they still are. Mine did come with the floor section somewhat constructed. So I would say from, if I'm remembering that correctly, I want to say probably from the joining part from right here to probably right here. The center channel was constructed. Not all the rivets were done. And I believe, I'm trying to remember if the seat pans, I think the seat pans were in already. And some of the side bracing. This was all done here. And these solid rivets were obviously all done. So yeah, that center channel, front channel was still being built at the factory. Let's see. Yeah, Scott asked, how's the build support at Zenith been? It's been excellent. I mean, again, the only downside, and if you saw on some of the forums there, I think Roger's been at Zenith for 31 years or something like that. There's good and bad that come with a small, tight-knit factory like that. Obviously, the good is everybody knows everybody. They know all their products and everything inside and out. The downside is Roger's just one guy. He can't do all the demo flights, all the tech support, all the quick builds, answer all the tech support questions. You know, I'm hoping that they're modeling another Roger at some point. But yeah, as far as support, if I ever had a part missing, or you know, I had a question about something, or I made a mistake and I was like, can I do this and not mess with the airworthiness of this aircraft? I just send it off to Roger. I'd send him a picture. I'd say, hey, I want to do this. Can I do this? Or can I drill a hole here to put this wire? And he's always been, within 24 hours, he'll answer back. And if he hasn't, I usually get an email saying, hey, Roger's on vacation, or he's hunting, or whatever, you know. So I usually get my answer very quickly. If it's not from Roger, it's from one of you, or it's from Zenith directly from somebody else. Do you think you'll want to build another aircraft in the future after this? That's from Chris. Yeah, I could definitely see that in the future. I would love to build aircraft full time all the time, but I think it's more of a time commitment thing. Just knowing whether or not you could actually do that would be, I wouldn't want to start another project and then like have it sit around for 2 or 3 years. I wouldn't want to do that. So it definitely would be something that would be unique. I've looked at several, like I said, several other kits would be fun to build. But yeah, I could see building something in the future. And I think if I did a Super Duty all over again, I would do it totally different. I think you could improve on just the build that you've done because you made those mistakes. You said, man, I wish I wouldn't have riveted that when I did that, or this time. You know, you would change the order that you do things, I think. Yeah, these are all great questions, guys. Yeah, so as far as Bob on that sending out the finished floor section, mine was, I don't know about the new ones. Again, mine is a 2020, 2021 kit. And, you know, and I would consider that an early kit. So, yeah. Let's see. Scott says, it's great to hear. Look at 701 in the future, especially. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, the 701 is really cool if you're just like a one-man show, or you just want to get in to an aircraft fairly inexpensively. That's going to be a pretty neat aircraft to see now that it's all match hole drilled and you don't have to do all the manual work. Definitely an awesome little a plane to do. It's going to be exciting also to see some of the stuff that John Hubbard has done with he's building a 701, but a single seat one. So he's narrowed the fuselage to make it like a STOL championship kind of a plane where it's only used at STOL competitions. Have not heard anything on scratch built plans. Yeah, I don't know if they want to go that route or not. I guess, man, I can't even imagine. If you've probably been around home builds, you've probably seen the Hummelbird at some time. The Hummelbird was a half Volkswagen engine plane. They made a couple different models. They had the Hummelbird and the Hummel Cruiser. They were basically like ultralightish, kind of one-man, two-man planes. I originally bought a Hummelbird plans and started making all those pieces from scratch out of wood molds and banging. Man, I can't imagine building something like this from scratch. You got to really love what you're doing to do that from scratch. Will I keep my retractable Cessna once you get done with your build? Yeah, probably for now. My daughter's a pilot as well. She's actually working on her instrument rating right now. So, and my son, who comes back from the Air Force in a few days, he's also finishing up his private. So I could see us keeping that as kind of a family cruiser. Although, you know, if we find out that, man, we can't get enough of this plane, and then we may end up selling that. The airplane market right now is crazy. Not only the certified aircraft. I mean, we've seen airplanes that my Cardinal back in 1971 was $26,000 off the showroom floor. You can't get a muffler for $26,000 anymore. Forget that. So yeah, it's with Cessna aircraft and Beechcraft aircraft dwindling down with crashes and old age and neglect and corrosion and spar inspections and all this stuff. As all the old Cessnas and Beechcraft go away, your only option is a brand new one, which we know is in the $500 to $1 million range, or you build your own plane. So that's why I think between COVID and the price of new aircraft, why this is such a better option, both from a paperwork standpoint, but from, you're going to get a brand new aircraft the way you want it, with the avionics you want, painted the way you want. You're going to know every single nut and bolt on this aircraft, and it's going to be yours, and hopefully it's paid for by the time you're done. So, yeah, it's crazy, the aircraft market right now. Yeah, great questions, guys. I appreciate everybody engaging. It's fun when we can answer questions and sit around and chat like this. Again, we'll probably do more live videos. We're kind of getting all the bugs worked out. We switched some camera gear out and some software out. So we'll try and do more of the live stuff. And maybe, we could even do that cowling live, although you probably don't want to hear me swearing too much, so I might have to edit that one. But yeah, no, I'll probably, that'll be my next task, because I think that's something I can accomplish in a few days. I think I can get the lower cowling fit up, the top one fit up, get that intercooler duct routed, and then there'll be some custom fiberglass work that we're going to do, because we're going to build a little bit of a scoop on the side there. What is he? Scott has a question. Pilot's Cafe Instrument Guide. Well, that's a new one. I'll have to check that one out. Yeah, and for anybody that may be on here, or I think most of you guys are probably pilots, we're going to be doing a video. I tell you what, I don't know how old you guys on there. I'm 52. I started flying in the 90s. I started flying in a 150, then a 152. And I can remember back then it was $40 an hour for the plane and $20 for an instructor. That same plane today is $150 for the plane and $80 to $100 for the instructor. And that's from a pretty, it's a reputable school, I'll say that. They definitely have good standards, good safety record. But it is not cheap to fly anymore, and it's only getting more expensive, between aircraft costing more, insurance costing more. But where I was going with that is one of the videos we're going to be doing for anybody that's looking at flight training is top 10 ways you can save money with flight training, because I've been there, done that, had 20 different flight instructors, and then fast forward 20 years to now, where my daughter and my son have been going through flight training and seeing what they're running into with flight instructors, and we've all seen the crashes on YouTube and the reports and all that stuff. It's kind of a scary time, because I think what we have is, there's no more, you don't go to the flight school anymore and find the guy that was like an F-14 Tomcat pilot. Those guys are gone. So now what you get is 20-somethings, 23, 24-year-old flight instructors who just got all their ratings 6 months before, and they're just racing through instruction to get onto the airlines. And it's just, what it's doing is it's just creating this cycle of 20-something-year-old pilots with 6 months of experience, and it's scary. So I try and at least take my knowledge of aviation, a lot of my friends that have been commercial pilots and flying Alaska and bush pilots and all kinds of stuff, and tell every story and talk about every scenario. We watch the safety videos, we watch all that stuff, but we'll probably come out with a video on how to save money, and there are some definitely some good ways to do that. Let's see, Decker's Bose says, I'm 57, got my private 2 years ago. Yeah, so what, I don't know what you flew in, but yeah, I mean, that's awesome. There's no right or wrong time to get your private, that's for sure, but it's definitely more money now, that's for sure. And it used to be, well, I could go buy a used plane and I'll just use it for my training, but now even the used planes, you used to be able to get a 150, let's say 152 for, if it was 24,000, that was a lot. That was a cherry one. You could probably even get some for 16,000, 18,000. Now they're 80 to 100,000 for a 152 that's still built in the 70s. So it's crazy how much flying has got expensive. So again, to fly something that burns 6 to 9 gallons an hour, that can carry 3 people, has an 800+ pound payload, that can fly off in the woods and land in gravel bars. That's where it's at right here. 172 and a Warrior, yeah, both good planes there. 172 is definitely good, especially if you're a bigger person like me. 152 can get a little crowded. Plus, with the max load of like 400 or 500 pounds total, there's not a lot of room there if you got 2 big guys and fuel. So, all right, guys. Well, I think we're right up against the hour. Not that we have a limit on that, but I'll keep talking and answering questions as long as they come in. Again, if there's anything specific, you can drop a comment in this video. You can also contact me on anywhere on the YouTube channel. There's always you can comment on a different video if you want to, and shoot a question there. There's also an email address at the top of the page. And again, if you are subscribed, appreciate it. If you do have the notifications on, then you'll get notified when we do live videos like this, or when we put out a new video on YouTube. So we're trying to get things rolling again, get back into it. And we have, like I said, we haven't totally neglected the plane for 6 months, but we have cut down a lot on building, but we are getting back in the swing of things here soon. So I do appreciate everybody that's joined in tonight. Again, Kent and Bob, Greg, who else do we got here? Gut Boy, sorry, I don't know if that's your real name or not. Scott, Decker's Bows, is that like archery bows? Is that what we're talking about? And Chris and Bob, I already said. So yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Yeah, appreciate it, Decker's Bows. Can't wait for your next episode. So yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for waiting for that little bit of a delay in the beginning there, if you were with us from the beginning. Hey, Jerry, nice to meet you. Yeah, so we'll see you soon. Again, we try. The plan is always to put out a video a week, even if it's something short. I'd like to get something out there, even if it's to help you guys keep motivated. It helps me keep motivated. Gives me a reason to come out to the shop and work on something. Again, if you're not a member of the Facebook Super Duty Group Builders Forum, definitely jump in there and post your questions. I try and answer as many as I can, unless it's in an area where I'm not building that part yet, or I'm not in front of my plans. Sometimes I like to refer to them before I start shouting out wrong answers. And yeah, thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be getting back to them. And we will see you guys soon. So I think with that, we will wrap it up for tonight. Again, it's Adam with Aeroworks, and this is the Super Duty build series. If you're not familiar with the channel, there is a whole playlist from when we got the kit all the way till today. They're all in there in order, as well as some other things. Then we also have general aviation videos. We have drone videos because we're commercial drone operators, all that good stuff. So we do a bunch of other things there too. Oh yeah, Deckers, I owned an archery pro shop. Cool, for 30 years. Yeah, I'm actually a NAS archery instructor and lettered in archery in high school in Alaska. So I've been in archery for a long time as well. Cool, thanks, Jerry. Yeah, so that's it, guys. We'll wrap it up on this one. Feel free to leave a comment. This video should be up a little bit later to replay, so you can watch it if you missed something in the beginning. And we'll see you on the next video, guys. Again, Adam with Aeroworks, and Major's behind the scenes, one of my sons. He's doing all the hard work with the technical stuff. And we'll see you next time. Hopefully, we're going to be building that cowling and getting that all customized, and or finishing up the wing. We'll probably be doing both at some point. So we'll cover that and put it on the channel. So again, guys, have a good night. Happy New Year. And good luck with your builds. And feel free to ask questions here or on the Super Duty Build Group.